Hey everybody, welcome to another Grow Big video. Today we're talking to Evan Wright from Avalara about conquering cross-border tax compliance for sellers selling outside their domestic market. So Evan, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Josh, for having me.
So we're going to talk about the agenda here. Here's what we're going to break down. We're going to talk about cross-border market opportunity. Why would you even want to sell cross-border? Some really cool data coming to us from Avalara and their ecosystem. Then we're going to talk about new customer expectations. Now with this whole new cross-border dynamic, what are customers asking of the merchants that they're buying from? Then we're going to talk about understanding the common pitfalls, errors, mistakes, things that you could do better as you expand internationally, and how do you automate and streamline those obligations vis-a-vis, I don't know, Avalara, let's say. So, Evan, let's kick it off right now. We have question number one. Why should companies be thinking about going cross-border at all?
Good question. And, it really starts with, the broader opportunity of this is a global e-commerce market is expected to hit $5.5 trillion. Let's just say that again, $5.5 trillion is expected by the end of 2023, which is a ridiculous number. And 20% of that is going to be cross-border commerce. So as technology improves, the world gets flat. We'll get into more of the details, but it's really talking about this massive market opportunity. And amidst a pandemic, we coming out of it on the other side. Really, all these different brands are going to start looking for ways to capitalize on growth, and cross-border is that next big opportunity. And just a fun stat, 50% of U.S. domestic brands, retailers, do not sell cross-border today. They are simply focused on their domestic market, and they're thinking about what's that next phase of growth. It really is that cross-border opportunity. So let's just back up and really dig into the opportunity itself. So $5.5 trillion, $7.3 trillion by 2025. And if you look at some of the global GDPs of China, US, UK, so the top 10, what I consider from a global e-com perspective, if you look at these, only a fraction of their GDP is e-commerce today. And that number is expected to keep ticking up. The EU generates about 17% of its global GDP from e-commerce. We expect that to absolutely skyrocket over the next couple of years, especially as we start to see technology and things in our supply chain improve. So cross-border selling has gone mainstream. We conducted a study here at Avalara in conjunction with our friends at NAPCO Research. And they had said that about 86% of retailers, businesses that they had interviewed are selling cross-border currently. And if they're not, 92% of them said they're planning to in the next 12 months. So we really want to focus and drive towards this opportunity. A lot of these are international businesses that are looking to capitalize. Our US market is large, but this is really a global opportunity that we could absolutely capitalize on, and our brands and our customers, specifically at Avalara, are talking about.
Okay, so for selling cross-border, what are those consumers overseas expecting of us, let's say the merchant, the supplier? Can you break that down as to what you're seeing?
It's really about customer expectations, right? So as you start to facilitate a global experience, a cross-border experience, there is a lot of expectations that are set out into the market that these customers want a really truly good experience as they would buying from a local or a domestic company. So really it starts out with a frictionless experience. Only 10% of consumers agree that their brands that they're purchasing from are giving them a good experience online. So frictionless, a transparent, so 95% of buyers expect to see all shipping fees, taxes, really a true, what we call a landed cost of the total amount they're going to pay at the time of checkout. So a frictionless, a transparent, and finally, Josh, a convenient experience. So 90% of consumers say they want to when they interact with a brand online, they want a convenient experience. I mean, these seem very simple, but it is truly a hard thing to do when you're facilitating an e-commerce experience especially a cross-border e-commerce experience. So these are what the customers expect. So the question is, how do we get our customers and our brands and our friends out there in the e-commerce space to deliver this convenient, frictionless experience?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I love about Avalara is you live so deeply in this space. In one of the biggest kind of eyes glazing over challenges that companies don't want to and yet need to address, right? So when you're seeing all the companies that are now coming to you in droves really to help you, help them kind of set it all up, what are the errors or the pitfalls that they're falling into that prompt them to come to Avalara?
Yeah, there's a lot. I will talk about the basic pitfalls today, but when you think about facilitating a good cross-border experience and you want to ship from, US outbound or Brazil outbound or UK outbound, in really the whole supply chain pieces that have to go right, but then there are the compliance pitfalls, which I'm going to focus on today. So really selling cross-border can be complex, but it is, again, back to that $1 trillion opportunity. It is the next phase of growth. So it doesn't have to stifle that growth. You can really unlock that experience by calculating duties and taxes real time in a checkout experience. There are trade restrictions. So can I or can I not sell my product into a specific country? There are 190 plus international jurisdictions that you have to maintain different rules and product specific taxes and duties. There are what we call de minimis thresholds of when duties and taxes even apply to your particular shipment. International cart abandonment is always high unless you present it in a very simplified, consolidated, transparent experience. And finally, mapping your harmonization tariff codes to your product catalog. So really getting into the details of that specific product and telling customs what that product is to really facilitate the rest of these downstream compliance issues. So the top challenges faced by cross-border sellers today, again, with our friends over at NAPCO Research, we did this study amongst our customers. 56% said the top reason was shipments getting delayed in customs. Added supply chain costs, not having duties and taxes calculated accurately. Really, the demand is there. It's facilitating that good experience and ensuring that you can get your product to your customer and ensuring that you're not getting hit with duties and taxes and additional costs downstream. So that is what Avalara has been trying to solve for and helping our clients really unlock this growth opportunity. And all of those different issues that I just displayed on the screen, most of them can be solved with what we call HS classification. So Josh, I always like to level set with the client base and start with the lowest common denominator of what is an HS code. So an HS code is a simple way to think about it is it's an international trade language. And it's simply a numeric value assigned to a specific product. So as you can see, the example on the screen here is an orange. But if I was to use this orange shirt, we would look at, okay, what is the particular fabric and material being used in this orange shirt? And then that is a book. In a book about 2 feet thick, they have all of the different HS codes that apply to all of the different products that you want to import, export out of countries. So it is incredibly complex to derive and really come up with an HS code. But that is the first step in terms of expanding your business internationally, is coming up with these valid HS codes for your products. And it sounds complex, but there is a method to the madness. So I'm just going to break this down really quickly. Really, 200 countries have come together and agreed upon this language. And their first 6 digits, and it goes by, again, that 2-foot book. There is a chapter, a subchapter, a heading in the chapter, a subheading in that chapter, and it drives deeper into the particular classification. So usually these are 8 to 10 digit codes that are specific to the country that you want to import to. 6 of those numbers are going to be universal, and then the last 2 to 4 digits will be specific to the country you're importing to. So let's use a real world example. This is a leather sandal, and the universal, again, 200 countries have agreed upon this to say that this leather sandal it falls into chapter 6405, subheading 90. And what this particular code drives to is, hey, we want to import this leather sandal. But if I wanted to import this sandal into Australia, it depends on the type of leather that it is. So is it cowhide? Is it lambskin? Is it, fill in the blank? And as you drive further into what that particular leather is, Australia may require a different tariff on that. So to import this cowhide leather sandal into Australia, it's a 5% tariff. Into the US, 12.5% tariff. And into Japan, they believe that, cowhide, they want to protect against it, their local market, so 30% tariff to import it in. And they can be also country specific. So I'm going to use another example here of this loafer. This is a leather loafer, and I'm going to use Canada as a good example. They not only care about what the type of leather that it is, but also what is the use case of this particular loafer. So they have a 10-digit code for medical or ballet reasons. Is it classified simply as a female, or are these slippers? And as you can see, that tariff changes pretty drastically, not even on the type of material, but also the use case for that material.
That's huge.
Yeah. So, Josh, I think, again, back to kind of creating that transparent, frictionless, convenient experience for clients, it really starts with ensuring that you have a proper HS code. And I'm just going to simplify this. There's really a few different reasons to do that, an HS code, and focus on your HS code compliance, that tariff code. Is one, if you don't have a correct code, that creates incorrect customs paperwork. So those actual clearance documents, which leads to shipments getting held up in customs, potential fines and surcharges, overpayment of customs duty. So you may be paying that 18% tariff when it was really a 5% tariff. Duties are calculated incorrectly, which again leads back to cart abandonment or increased rate of that product rejection in country. Duties are calculated incorrectly, which leads to you didn't actually gain as much margin on that shipment as you thought you would. So again, driving down to HS codes really ensures proper compliance. So now that we've kind of driven into the details of it, let's talk about what are the options out there to help you classify. So today, there are, amongst many customers that I've interviewed, of what they've done historically is they've leaned on their carriers. So the UPSs, the FedExs of the world, the DHLs of the world, or those local common carriers. They say, hey, my carrier does that for me. But typically, a carrier is not staffed to do this well. They're just trying to move your package as quickly as possible. So what they typically do is they'll take the highest tariff rate for the description that you've given. So back to that shoe example, they're going to take an 18% tariff when really you could have been clearing it with a 10 or a 5% tariff. A consultant or a customs broker or a lawyer, these guys are usually charging between $350 and $450 an hour to help you get your codes. And, this may work well for, large enterprise companies, but e-retailers, this is quite the expense to classify your items. And then majority of folks that we talk to just do it themselves, where they've classified everything to the US and then use that US code to ship internationally. And that is a pretty poor way to do it as well. So all of these are inconsistent, slow, expensive, and they don't actually calculate any of the duties that come along with it. Huh. So now that we can get you to an HS code, and we'll talk about other options later, but once you have your HS code, then you need to calculate duties and taxes and really provide that transparent experience for your customers. So when it comes to duties and taxes, I always like to, again, level set that there really are two different types of duties, and there's also import tax. So when we talk about duties and taxes, it really is two different tax types that we're talking about. So on the customs duty side, this is direct tax imposed upon goods being imported or exported from a country. Most of the time it's on the import side, and this is what we call a tariff. So these are really on imports. They're driven from that HS code that we just talked about. And so then there is the import tax side. So this is what we call VAT or GST in a lot of countries around the world. In the US, we call it sales tax. So there's two different types of taxes that are charged upon a cross-border transaction. And sometimes this can equate to almost 30% or more of the purchase price value. So customers not having that set up front, expectation set up front in their shopping cart experience, leads to some downstream headaches. Managing these are expensive and complex. You need to have deep knowledge of the tariffs, the different HS codes. You really want to ensure a proper experience. So we're going to get into what are those experiences that are being set and the expectations being set by some of the best cross-border e-retailers out there. And I'll give you a quick insight into what that looks like. So an e-retailer wants to be able to facilitate that convenient, frictionless, and convenient experience. They're using what they call a delivered duty paid model. And what this means is essentially they want to take those duties and taxes that are calculated up front in a shopping cart experience and be able to present that to their customer real time at checkout. So that Mr. Customer, this is going to be, X amount of customs duty and shipping real time. You can prepay that so that you can facilitate a what I like to call the Amazon experience. The box just shows up on their porch. There's no additional duties or taxes that are due upon arrival, which is a way a lot of e-retailers do it today, Josh. So just to quickly walk you through this, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but essentially the way it works is as a customer is adding items to the cart, there's a software or some sort of logic in the back end that is saying, all right, Mr. Customer, I am shipping this from the US to Brazil or to the UK, and real time it is going to pick up what are the applicable duties and taxes. And then you will collect those duties and taxes from your customer in that checkout experience. You will assign an HS code. Theoretically, it's already been assigned before. You will provide that on what we call a customs declaration that you're going to give to your carrier. So the carrier is now going to say, hey, here is my two products that this customer bought, and here are the HS codes that correlate to those two products. And I want you to charge me the duties and taxes as the e-retailer so that my customer doesn't have to pay anything upon arrival. The carrier will then clear your goods through customs, and then they will bill you as the e-retailer those duties and taxes back. Once it is cleared, then that shipment goes for final mile delivery to your customer. There's no surprise bills or anything upon delivery. And this is what the market is moving to. To really capitalize on this cross-border growth opportunity, you must and should facilitate a DDP experience.
So Evan, before you jump to the next one, so when people are talking about vetting their customs broker, their logistics provider, and they're saying, well, do they know the customs clearance data? Do they understand the right amount of, the right HS code to apply? In this model, you almost don't need to worry about whether the customs broker or the logistics provider do that, because there's a solution, which I presume we're going to be talking about later, from Avalara, that does it for you and just gives the directions to the logistics provider and the customs broker. Is that accurate?
That's spot on, Josh. So what we're saying is there's some pre-work to do before you facilitate that cross-border experience of assigning an HS code, finding a engine to help you calculate duties and taxes. All of this Avalara does provide, which I will talk about, but there's other players out there in the market. Really, from all the different brands I've talked to, marketplaces, e-retailers, all across, from small to enterprise, they're all paving towards this path of, customer experience is king in a e-commerce environment. And by facilitating a delivered duty paid experience, assigning an HS code, doing that real-time duty and tax calc up front, you're able to facilitate that customer experience that is frictionless and convenient and transparent.
Which is great. Obviously, when we talk about cross-border buyers, the lifetime value of a cross-border buyer and the loyalty is far greater than you'd find domestically, because yes, it takes harder to get them in the door, but when they're in the door, if you provide an experience like this, it sounds like you really can keep them loyal because there is no friction, and that's the kind of client you want, right?
That's exactly spot on. If they're going to take a gamble on ordering from someone, cross-border, they want to ensure, that it's going to get there and they're not going to have any of these surprise fees at the door. So now that your customers have that cost transparency, this is what it would look like real time in a cart, right? You want to be able to see, here I'm buying these 2 items, my shipping is calculated, my customs duty is calculated, that local tax is calculated. When I click purchase, this is the total amount that I pay, and I don't have, again, any surprise bills at the door. Just to summarize, DDP equals that convenient, frictionless, and transparent experience.
I really appreciate you breaking this down from really the basics all the way through and walking us through it, because you do such a great job at articulating things that are kind of floating around in an amorphous state in many of our brains. Obviously, because of that, it's birthed the need for a solution like Avalara. So I think it would be completely appropriate to talk about how does Avalara address this need?
Absolutely. I love talking about how we can help. So Avalara, quick background. Avalara's been around since 2004. We are a cloud-based compliance engine. And really what we do is we help facilitate all of those big compliance challenges and try to automate them for our customers so that they can really focus on what they care about, which is, selling more of their goods and not having to worry about the headaches of sales and use tax, duties or import taxes, HS code classification. There's new legislation that requires e-commerce, e-retailers to actually, get registered in certain jurisdictions around the globe. So we can do all of that on behalf of our clients. So we like to call ourselves the true, complete unified solution for the global compliance puzzle. I'm going to focus on the cross-border offering that will get into a little bit more into the weeds here further in the presentation. So it all starts with understanding HS codes. We went deep on what is an HS code, why it's important, how does that drive into your growth opportunity of cross-border. Avalara can help you manage those classifications and help you drive those classifications. So we have several different offerings. One is our self-service capacity, which is we have a software product that we can provide businesses to help them look up these HS codes if they have internal resources. Think about it as a Google search product for classifications. You want to input, what is this orange shirt? It will help through an automated wizard take you through and drive down into that classification for the countries that you want to ship to. I have other clients that want to simply just outsource it. I want you just to give me what that code is so they can send us their item catalog and I will send them back a classification. And so this managed service is unique in the fact that it has a software front end to help drive the classification, but it actually has a human element on the back end. So we actually have over 200 classifiers that will take your product catalog and actually review it with human eyeballs and select the appropriate classification as a part of our managed service. Once we have that tariff code, then we can unlock what we call trade restrictions. So there's certain trade restrictions that are product-based. So whether or not you can or cannot sell a product into a country. A really easy example would be alcohol. Some countries prohibit import of alcohol, like in Saudi Arabia. Others, like the US, we have certain restrictions on percent of alcohol as well as volume. Another example would be seashell buttons. You know what, Josh loves those seashell buttons. And the US, the US has certain restrictions on importing seashells. So we can help you at Avalara understand where you can or cannot sell your products and the best ROI for countries you want to tackle. Once we understand the HS code where you want to sell, then we can calculate duties and taxes real time in a checkout experience. So we can do this through our automated plugins that we have to all the different shopping carts like Salesforce Commerce Cloud, Magento, Shopify, fill in the blank. We have a plugin that will allow you to calculate duties and taxes real time in a checkout experience. But our cross-border offering really fits into the global suite of solutions that Avalara offers. So down here in the bottom, it really starts with helping clients get registered in different countries around the world. We can classify their products, calculate duties and taxes, what we call the landed costs. There is new e-invoicing requirements out there that countries are migrating to have a real-time transaction of an invoice to governments to get a stamp of approval on as a transaction ID. So we'll get into that in just a second. We can help clients create, file, and remit their tax returns. There are some countries that require you to actually have boots on the ground or a physical presence, so we can be that fiscal rep for our clients. So quickly, just to touch on the e-invoicing, because this is kind of the hot trend in the market today. E-invoicing is a interesting legislation change going on it started in Brazil, and it's really been migrating around the world. Different countries are making you, as a brand, submit your invoice to a government entity to get a transaction ID, and then it's a real-time payment of duties and taxes in a e-invoicing capacity. So Avalara has a solution as these countries start unlocking and passing this, which we believe is kind of the future trend of compliance, that Avalara can help our clients in an automated fashion. So I talked about it briefly, but let's get into the classification piece, because I think we spent a lot of time on it. How does this work? How does this help our clients? So really, wherever that product is managed, wherever your product catalog is managed, we can extract that information via an API or simply a flat file like an Excel file, CSV file. You give us the details about those particular products. We ingest that into our engine. So the engine is going to break down using keywords and artificial intelligence to predict what the HS code or set of HS codes are. And then we have our experts as a service. So this is that 200 people that sit on the back end that can come in, validate, pick out the proper classification, and then we will pass that back to you through a, again, CSV file, or you can simply have it plugged directly into wherever your products are managed. This is a very slick service that some of the largest companies in the world are using today, as well as retailers that have 10 products that they sell globally. So it is a truly scalable solution. How does it fit into the overall cross-border solution at Avalara? I like to just really focus it on it from an e-retailer perspective. So you have your online store as a brand. You have your e-commerce platform that online store is built upon. Avalara has a unique plugin that will automate inside of your e-commerce platform. So from your perspective, we do this initial classification function where we can classify all your products that you want to sell around the world. We can store those inside of your Avalara account. So as a customer comes into your store, we'll just use a UK customer shopping on your US site. They're simply going to put in their credit card information, their ship to information. That is sent through an API to the Avalara Avatax product. And real time, as they're moving through their checkout process, we are going to calculate that customs duty and local tax that we displayed earlier. So real time in a checkout experience, as that customer is keying in information, it's automatically calculated in the back end. Opportunity awaits. So really, again, the whole premise of this is how do you unlock that $1 trillion opportunity of cross-border e-commerce? And it's all about that convenient, frictionless experience online. And you want to be able to enhance the customer experience, charge tax with greater accuracy, avoid any additional costs. So really showing that true landed cost, and outsourcing to a company that you know has been in the space for a long time and has all of that global content to help you unlock whatever country you want to sell to.
Evan Wright from Avalara talking about how do you start dealing with compliance and tax issues when you're selling outside of your domestic market to consumers who are eagerly awaiting a wonderful customer experience from you. Evan, thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you out there on the road.
Thanks for having me, Josh. It's been a pleasure. We always love what you've been doing at the Grow Big initiative. Avalara really appreciates the partnership that you've helped us unlock, key areas, and really love what you're doing out there in the market.
Follow us, subscribe, so you can understand how you can sell through multiple channels and geographies here at the Grow Big initiative, and we'll see you on the next one.